Lester Crest is the mastermind behind the biggest heists that happened in Los Santos during the story mode of the game. During his career, he committed several crimes that would have serious consequences in the real world. So what would happen if Lester Crest would be charged for his crimes? The first time we meet Lester is during the mission Friend Request, in which Lester then tasks Michael with infiltrating the Life Invader office to rig a prototype phone with an explosive device. And this already sets the stage as he breaks multiple laws in this mission. Even if Lester doesn't personally carry out the acts, by planning the entire thing and assisting in executing the plan, he is complicit in the crimes. Looking at the law, someone who aids and abets a crime can face the same penalties as the person who commits the crime, which means Lester would face the same punishments as everyone who's actively executing their plan. And therefore, the first crime he commits is the conspiracy to commit murder and sabotage. By helping Michael to break into the Life Invader office and rig the phone to explode during a live broadcast, he is guilty of that. Therefore, he is probably looking at 2 consecutive life sentences without parole, and he could face fines of $2 million. This excludes the civil lawsuits from the victim's family or the company that might follow. But that's not everything he did in just this first mission. While Michael is in the Life Invader building, he helps him with his hacking to gain access to multiple office rooms. So he would be guilty of cybercrimes, which is also punished severely. Hacking into the systems of big companies is seen as a major offense, and the sabotage of their business makes this even worse. For this crime, he would face 25 years in prison with another $2 million in fine. And that's still not it. The reason why Lester is doing it is because he wanted to damage the stock value of Life Invader, which makes him guilty of conspiracy to commit corporate espionage. Since he was doing this for his personal gain, makes the entire situation even more severe, and he would definitely be looking at a prison sentence of 15 years and a fine of $5 million, which again excludes any charges Life Invader could issue. I don't know about you, but these have already some hard crimes for the first mission, but it gets even worse. Do you remember the assassination mission from Franklin? Then you also probably remember that Lester was the criminal mastermind behind them. The charge he would get for this is called murder for hire, also known as contract killing, which is one of the most severe offenses in the justice system of the US. The act of paying another person to commit murder doesn't really give him the chance for any mitigating circumstances, especially because Lester was not just the informant or the guide in the mission, but the one who actually orchestrated it. For just the first mission, which is mandatory in the story mode of GTA 5, Lester would face a life imprisonment. If we would add all the other assassination missions, Lester would face life imprisonment for each count of murder for hire. Another one of the crimes Lester commits is kidnapping. In one of the missions, the player kidnaps Mr. K, and the man behind this entire mission is no other than Lester that helps the player through the entire mission. As I already said, as a helper, he would get the same punishment. Looking at some mitigating circumstances, we could definitely say that Lester and the entire crew were forced by corrupt FIB agents to commit this act, but it won't help him absolve the crime entirely. Considering the nature of the kidnapping and the torture that followed, the punishment would still be pretty harsh. He would probably face 10 years in prison for that and a fine of $1 million. Now, the highlight of GTA missions have definitely been the heist missions, but one of them stands out the most. First of all, let's take a look at where they steal deadly neurotoxin from a high-security research facility. Stealing a neurotoxin isn't just considered as simple theft, it's classified as terrorism. The potential use or threat by this substance could cause panic, endanger countless lives, and destabilize entire regions. As you can imagine, terrorism is one of the most serious charges in any legal system. Therefore, he would be looking at a prison sentence of 40 years, and fines would be at least $10 million. At the same time, since they use the poison, they also make themselves guilty of poisoning. It doesn't matter if it results in death or not, it's considered a grave offense. In the case of Lester, it would lead to a prison sentence of 25 years and fines of $500,000. The punishment here would be even more severe if the victim died during the assault, and it would be rated on the scale of attempted murder, manslaughter, or even first-degree murder. Now, after the heists are done, Lester also helps them make the money appear legal. His solution to that is laundering the money through the stock market. At first glance, investing the money in stocks might seem like a legitimate move, but when the money that is being invested is the product of criminal activities, it becomes a sophisticated method of money laundering. By moving the money of crime through stocks, Lester helps them blur the lines between legitimate earnings and criminal loot, which makes it harder for authorities to trace the origins of the wealth. As you can imagine, money laundering is a serious offense, and the law doesn't look kindly at these activities. For Lester, who is managing such large-scale money laundering operations, the punishments would be pretty hard. The punishment for that would be 20 years and a fine of $5 million. This number could be even higher, depending on the total amount that was laundered. However, that's still not everything that's on the list for Lester. Throughout the game, we find out that Lester assisted Michael in faking his own death and crafting a new identity. The reasons for that were simple. Michael had done a lot of criminal stuff and wanted a fresh start in Los Santos, away from all of the pain of having to hide from law enforcement. However, for Lester, this is a clear case of obstruction of justice. By helping Michael fake his death, Lester is actively impeding investigations, misleading law enforcement, and aiding in committing further crimes under a false identity. Again, the law doesn't really like to see the obstruction of justice, and therefore it's seen as a serious offense, as it's undermining the foundations of the legal system, which makes it difficult for justice to be served. Therefore, for Lester, who planned and executed this deception, the consequences would be significant. Given the gravity of his actions, he would look at 5 years of prison and a fine of $200,000. Now, if we go back to the heists, Lester also helps Michael, Franklin, and Trevor to get access to weapons that are usually only used in the military. In some instances, he provides them directly, but in others, he encourages them to go and steal them. Illegal weapon possession, especially the kind of weapons that Lester provides, isn't just a minor offense. It's a serious crime that can lead to significant jail time. The law here is clear. Possessing, distributing, or selling weapons without the necessary permits or licenses is a direct violation that threatens public safety. For someone like Lester, who not just possesses the weapons but also distributes them for criminal activities, the legal punishments would be substantial. Given the variety and nature of the weapon he provides, Lester could be looking at a prison sentence of up to 10 years for each weapon he sold, and his fines would also be about $500,000 for every weapon. Now, if we look closer at Lester's other methods, he is also guilty of blackmailing. It again happens in the first mission where we meet Lester, and he tells Michael to call the Life Invader CEO. After Michael follows these orders, he calls the CEO, and his phone explodes. This act could be seen as blackmailing, therefore he qualifies himself for 10 years of prison and another fine of $500,000. This punishment is definitely on the higher side of blackmailing, but given the fact that his blackmailing led to the public assassination of a CEO, it's definitely acceptable. Have you ever wondered how Lester gets all of the information he provides the player? Sure, he is a master hacker and is huge in cybercrime, but along with this usually goes the crime of stalking and the invasion of privacy. Lester uses these crimes to gather information, conduct surveillance, and track potential targets without their knowledge and consent. Therefore, he can easily get charged for stalking. Looking at stalking, you divide between misdemeanor stalking and felony stalking. Lester is definitely guilty of the latter, as he is taking an extremely systematic and premeditated approach to stalking. This will put him in jail for 5 years and adds another $50,000 to his fines. And there you have it. Looking at the total, Lester would face 3 life sentences, 155 years in prison, and a fine of $26,750,000. And these haven't even been all the crimes he has committed. If you are interested in seeing all of the crimes, make sure to subscribe to our channel. And with that being said, thanks for watching, and until next time.